C1. You are listening at FameTV.info. Early in the morning, the sound of the door opening was very abrupt in the quiet night. Song Yuran ran over to open the door, smiled and hugged the man who returned home in the middle of the night. Jing Chuan, happy birthday. Xie Jingchuan apathetically glanced at her and coldly said, I'm sick. Her open arms remained empty the entire time. The upturned corner of her mouth was frozen in place. Slowly, the smile faded. Xie Jingchuan threw the key on the counter in the profound entrance, pretending not to see Song Yuran's eyes that had dimmed in an instant. That in any case, this woman was immune to poisons. I'll be fine later. He would be like an annoying cat, coming close to her without being able to chase her away. Indeed, Xie Jingchuan took a few steps while taking off his jacket, and Song Yuran had already caught up to him to take his jacket. The cake has just been made, it's not too sweet. Light a candle and make a wish. There was hope in her eyes. Wearing a light pink nightgown, she actually looked 70% gentle and 30% pitiful. Xie Jingchuan rubbed between his brows, his handsome face was filled with undisguised disgust. Song Yuran, do you really not know how disgusting it is when you pretend to be gentle and virtuous? Song Yuran was slightly startled. Xie Jingchuan already impatiently went around her and stood at the other side of the table. He held a lighter in his hand and lit up all the candles. Song Yuran's eyebrows immediately returned to normal. Xie Jingchuan never allowed Song Yuran to join his circle of living, and the Xie clan and his friends also very tacitly went past her. The Mrs. Xie, even if it was her birthday, she could only take up a little of his time in the early hours of the morning. The candle flame trembled slightly, enveloping Xie Jingchuan's handsome and cold face. It lacked the warmth that it had caused one's heart to palpitate when they were young, and it had even more of the coldness and alienation of a grown man. Song Yuran smiled and clasped his hands together. Jing Chuan, make a wish. Through the weak light of the candle, Xie Jingchuan looked at the woman who was always smiling, and laughed coldly. For the past 5 years, I have only had one wish. Song Yuran, please disappear from my sight forever. The color of Song Yuran's face instantly disappeared. He reached out his hand to stop the man from leaving. Xie Jingchuan's voice suddenly became gloomy, let go. Song Yuran raised his eyes and looked at him. Are you really that disgusted with me? You aren't even willing to look at me. Do you still need me to answer this question? Xie Jingchuan suddenly laughed. He looked handsome, but there was no warmth in his eyes. Song Yuran, the person I, Xie Jingchuan, hate the most in my entire life is you. Was this clear enough? Is that clear enough? Song Yuran had always known Xie Jingchuan had never spared any effort in injuring her. She was clearly the closest husband and wife, yet she seemed like an unrelenting killer of her father. He wished that he could personally chop her into 1,000 pieces. Song Yuran's eyes gradually lit up. She tenaciously grabbed onto the man without letting go. Since that's the case, then I won't be polite. She suddenly climbed onto the man's shoulder, pressing her soft waist against his chest, kiss him on the lips, as if he had gone mad, until he tasted the blood on the other party's lips. Xie Jingchuan gasped for breath. Chaotically from her entanglement, she pushed him away, her face dark as water. Song Yuran, are you really that cheap? You promised to marry me yourself. Song Yuran's eyes lit up. You were the one who said that you would be with me. You said it. You. What right do you have to call me despicable? She never cried, and that meant she was not wrong. On the contrary, the longer he suppressed his emotions, the more shocking they became. Mrs. Xie. The man thought back on these 3 words. His handsome face darkened as he said, I've been pretending for so long, but I still couldn't resist revealing my true nature. If I knew this would happen, why did you continue pretending for so long? That's right, Song Yuran smiled faintly, I really wonder what I've been doing these past few years. Her emotions were different from usual. With her ice-cold fingertip, she gently outlined the outline of Xie Jingchuan's handsome face. Her actions were ambiguous, and her alluring voice spoke, men are just toys on the bed. Song Yuran. Xie Jingchuan's face darkened as he grabbed her wrist. The force was so strong that it almost broke her hand. You're courting death. "Heh, our young master Xie isn't willing to listen." Song Yuran looked at the man's angry eyes, his heart felt like it was bleeding, but the smile on his face became even brighter. "You are only a toy that I exchanged 5 billion for, Xie Jingchuan, why don't you love me?" Veins bulged on the handsome man's face. He could strangle her to death at any moment. Song Yuran tiptoed and kissed the man's lips, then muttered hoarsely, "Xie Jingchuan, I want you." Xie Jingchuan's handsome face darkened, and tore the nightgown she was wearing, causing Song Yuran's small face to instantly turn deathly pale. He pressed her down on the sofa, and they tangled, the cake on the coffee table tumbling to the floor and falling into a puddle of mud. Xie Jingchuan's voice was like ice, "Toys don't know how to weigh things, this Mrs. Xie will enjoy it." Listen to the full novel at FameTV.info, direct link in the description.